Good morning and happy New Year's Eve.
Happy New Year to you and to everybody watching. Today is the last day of December
2025,
and the
yeah.
last day of 2025.
Yep.
Some people just can't wait for it to push it out the door.
Yeah, I'm excited for the new year. It is Wednesday the 31st. You're watching The Really Big Show live on Now Media every weekday, 9 a.m. Not tomorrow, but mainly every weekday.
We skip one day, January 31st. Or January 1st.
January 1st,
and
yeah.
September 25th. Wow. Blah, blah, blah. Get that out there.
Yeah, get it out this year. A lot of headlines today. Carney touts boom coming. Stats are pointing to a bust. Canadians spend the most on taxes. The World Economic Forum is still pushing the world is ending. Supply management, is that the hill the Liberals want to die on? Squandered prosperity. Photos all the rage, if only you could sell them. Questions not asked to the PM. State broadcaster puts interesting spin on tax dodging. Tech is the future. BC looking for answers. MSN Media goes after the messenger. And currency is collapsing in Iran.
Yeah, mainstream media goes after the messenger.
Oh, there we go.
Mainstream media. Instead of going after the news, they went after the messenger. That's a big story, actually. And the other one is that Iran seems to, their currency is collapsing, and there's a lot of chaos going on in Iran right now.
And kick it off, we've got some of the celebrations in parts of the world that are already in 2026.
Australia leading the way. There you go. We're going to show you a little bit of Australia. They always have that great thing right there in the Sydney Harbour. Like if anywhere I could go to watch New Year's festivities, I would pick Sydney, Australia.
Same. I think it's more exciting than the ball drop.
Yeah, let's have a look here. Beautiful timing on the fireworks there to spell out Sydney. Gotta love that, eh? That's quite the, I mean, they're kind of world-renowned for their fireworks.
Oh,
Sydney.
yeah.
Obviously, they get to lead this stuff, though, too, being on the other side of the globe there. But China, not to be outdone. I think we have a little clip here from what's going on in China as well.
There's no sound.
Yeah, we don't want the sound for it.
You can see the air doesn't look as clear, though, around it as it does in Australia and China.
I think it's been smoking for a while, though, that we're kind of cutting into the middle of the Fox thing. They've been blowing off a lot of stuff there. They typically have a drone show going, too. Las Vegas promises to have a huge drone show going for their New Year's festivities. Drones all the rage when they start doing these, where they start painting in the sky painting. That's probably good enough.
Yeah, I wonder if the Sphere will be part of that drone display.
Have you been to the Sphere?
Well, I've seen it from the outside. I haven't seen anything within. What about you?
Yeah, I've been to the Sphere last year, around this time, actually. I went to the Sphere when I went to the CES. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, but it's not doing that well. It's kind of been a bust, actually. Like, very expensive.
Yeah.
And it's just the way they get you in and out, not a great experience. But it looks cool on the Strip.
It does look cool. It's a new landmark.
It looks cool. They spent a lot of money on that thing.
2026, Mark Carney, our Prime Minister, he's promising a historic boom.
Let's listen to the tout. Let's take it away, Mark. Lead us into 2026.
This vision by protecting our communities, our country, and our way of life. By building at home to empower Canadians. And by diversifying abroad to create a more prosperous and a more independent Canada. We will unleash over $1 trillion of investment in Canada over the next 5 years. That is worth $3,500 for every Canadian worker, more than twice what the U.S. is taking from us. And we are already delivering. Since we were elected, the Canadian economy has created over 180,000 jobs. The unemployment rate has fallen sharply. Wages have grown faster than inflation every single month, and we are just getting started.
That's good.
No one's fact-checking that, hey? Just a change.
We did yesterday. We played that yesterday. We wanted to bring this in. But the biggest expense for the average Canadian family now isn't food or clothes or anything. It's taxes that you pay. It's taxes. It's taxation. And then they're touting this tax break for Canadians here, Francois Philippe Champagne, touting that big tax break.
Didn't it amount to like $11 per
$11
person?
on the lowest rung, and then about on the average family is about $250, and then they're touting it as $850. But on the other side of that, CPP is going up this year. The top rate, so it works out about $250 more for the average Canadian in wages. So they're going to give you $250, and they're taking $250 in the increase in the CPP.
Kind of washes out.
Yeah, that is the. Let's listen to this here. Let's listen to this clip here.
Says taxes are the biggest expense for Canadian families. The Fraser Institute report points out that the average family in Canada spent about $48,000 in total taxes last year. The report also says Canadian families spent more on taxes than on housing, food, and clothing combined. It says taxes have grown faster than any other expenditure for an average Canadian family, going up by more than 2,700% since 1961.
Taxes are going up, but is the quality of governance going up? Or are we seeing that reflected in what we're getting back?
You know, that's the thing that most Canadians are going to push back on. As we watch, you know, the government stand at the podium giving away hard-earned Canadian tax dollars to other countries, to gender equity, rice,
Like
climate
Nigeria.
change things, all the money that's been poured out and wasted. Then you see the salaries like we talked about yesterday. $400,000 for somebody to look out the window and tell you what to call a UFO, not even investigate UFOs. And then $473 million spent just administering the dental program in Canada, not for giving out benefits, just to administer the program. The ArriveCAN scam, and the taxes like this, and then they get up there and they tout this. Taxation in Canada is grown at a monstrous rate, and it just seems to be getting worse. They seem to figure out new ways to tax all the time. Carbon tax, and we're going to get it here in 2026. Climate Religion 2.0 is coming. It's going to be more in the show here. Climate Religion 2.0 is coming with more taxes. CCUS, industrial carbon tax. So again, taxing our where most of our prosperity lies in Canada. They're going to tax us, and it just continues to get worse with taxation. You can't tell me most Canadians feel like they're in a better place with all this taxation. All they see is fraud, waste, abuse. And our media continues to let us down and not investigate that. And we're going to go through some of that later as well.
And as we send all this money abroad, our own healthcare system is collapsing under the weight of some of their policies as well.
It says our volume is low. It says, can you turn up the volume? Somebody says it's hard to hear. Oh,
okay, yeah, we got new mics today, so I'm hoping it wasn't that.
Yeah, tell us what you think of the mics. We got new mics, so it's supposed to cut off some of the peaking that's going on. And here's what Canadians are enjoying the most, not enjoying. And I've interviewed the food bank here locally. And again, their numbers were record numbers. And the sad part is a lot of youth in those numbers as well. But here's the food professor talking about this as well. And this is in Edmonton. The Global News did a piece on it and talking about their record usage of food banks as well. And they can't raise enough food to meet the demands. That's what's Canada's. That's the reality. Carney's touting the biggest boom ever. The reality is more and more Canadians continue to suffer. And I did an interview with M&P, an insolvency trustee. It says 67% of Canadians are about $200 away from meeting their monthly obligations. So that's the reality. Let's hear this clip though.
Demand for Edmonton's food bank.
Depending if you go back a couple of years or 5 years into our history, you're seeing huge increases in the number of people needing our services.
The organization is nearing the end of its festive campaign and sitting at about 62% of food donations and 85% of monetary donations. It's these community contributions that set the tone for services in 2026.
Everybody is facing challenges with household budgets. Having said that, I'm finding people are still very kind and generous to us.
The food bank supports more than 43,000 people.
Well, and it shows how the average Canadian's doing when you can't raise enough funds or food donations.
I see the complaints online about, people are saying that they're seeing BMWs and that, fancy vehicles in the food bank lineups. And I had that conversation here with the director here at the food bank. And you got to look at it in a different way. It's not that, these people are taking advantage of the system, that they're in such a bad way that this car that they own
is
the only car they
bankrupting
have
them.
is underwater. They can't turn it back because they owe like $10,000-$15,000 is underwater. So and they need a car, so they
Well,
can't even turn it back in. But they can't buy food, so they're stuck with this car to continue to pay for this car they can't afford, and at the same time they can't afford food. So they're doing what they can to feed their families.
and I would say generally a lot of those people who have a car they're paying out, they've also got a big mortgage payment. We do live in a society that has bitten off more than they can chew.
But here's Mark Carney in one of his interviews telling you about the massive opportunity that's in for Canada, and the economy is booming. And let's listen in on this one here.
First off, there's the moral imperative of the moral obligation, responsibility for future generations of addressing the issue, but there's also the commercial reality. Climate has become less of an issue politically if you look at polling, but it is continuing, the climate change is continuing remorselessly, and what is happening is that the importance of being lower carbon, whether it's in energy, automobiles, aerospace, services, whatever industry, will only become more important. You just have to look at where China and others are going. We have an opportunity, we have an enormous opportunity in this country to leapfrog the United States. The United States has taken its eye off the ball on this. I mean, they've really downgraded it. We have an opportunity to leapfrog the United States.
Our economy is stronger than the American economy.
On top of that overall responsibility, we can create jobs, we can make life more affordable, we can build our economy, and we are going to take those opportunities as they come.
I did a piece on LinkedIn. This is one of the more pathetic interviews. He's only provided a few interviews for Canadian outlets here, and this is one of them. This is with Global News. There's a two-part interview, and I put it on LinkedIn. I took the transcript, show you the questions. There was not even any follow-up questions, so it was like they had to provide a list of questions ahead of time. Carney had all the answers. He provided answers. There was no pushback on any of his answers. It was just basically next question, next question. A monkey could have done that interview. I also put the questions we would have asked on there, questions that need to be answered about Brookfield, questions that need to be answered about our energy. So many questions that were so obvious.
One question I would ask too is, if climate change is your main priority, why did you scrap the 2 billion trees mandate when forest fires are our biggest contributor to global emissions? And then you're also going to put on that article Pierre Poilievre's questions he was asked. He was on the hot seat.
Completely different interviews, and it just shows you where the mainstream media is here in Canada. And again, the money flowing out of Canada, I mean, one of the bigger questions I would have asked is like, why is capital fleeing Canada if it's such a big opportunity? Like he's saying, it's a big opportunity, Canada's going to lead. So why is capital fleeing? And then you're right here, you took Brookfield out of Canada. Why did you take it to the United States? That was a perfect opportunity to segue into that. You took Brookfield, you moved Brookfield into the United States, you said for access to capital. You also, with Brookfield, invested $80 billion with Cameco to build 8 nuclear power plants in the United States, not in Canada. So your actions are completely different from what you're saying. And that's the perfect time to push back on him in that interview. Nothing, absolutely nothing.
Well, yeah, and reality is quite different from what he's saying too.
Yeah. But I mean, foreign investment in Canada in Canadian securities has plunged 60% this year. And this is from one of the MPs, Raquel Doncho, saying that foreign money leaving and Canadians investing more abroad. And it is the Prime Minister himself investing abroad. He's like, I think 97% of his investments are in the United States.
Yeah, we've got that stat later on. Mark Carney is also heavily involved with the World Economic Forum.
Yeah, they still push climate change, right? And here's this Jacinda Ardern. She quit, right? It was suddenly too, when she resigned. It was a sudden resignation.
She was the Prime Minister of New Zealand from, I think, like 2017.
She was a big COVID mandator too. Like, she was really harsh. And here she is talking about the, she reminds me of those people that used to hand out the magazines on the side of the road there, or in the corners, and come to your house.
The Jehovah's?
I don't know, the ones that said the world is ending.
I think that's the Jehovah's.
Jesus is coming. Here's climate religion from Jacinda.
What would your message be to someone who might right now be sitting in the shoes that you once filled as a Prime Minister of a country who is dealing with domestic backlash?
Well, I think we've got to ask ourselves how we came to the point where something that is about the preservation of our planet for the next generation, how did that end up becoming so political? because this really should in many ways be a very straightforward question. If immediately within the next 5 years, someone said that without significant change, you run the risk of, losing huge parts of our ecosystem, wildfires, tropical cyclones that will take many people's lives, and a planet that's so warm that people will die from from heat. If that presented itself with immediacy, then maybe we would be hearing different debates. But that is actually the consequence of indecision and inaction. There should be no politics in that. It should be much more straightforward. So to any politician, I would say endeavour to take the politics out, because that is only holding us back.
That's good. That's the pot calling the kettle black. Take the politics out. Oh my God, that lady there was one of the roughest people on people's personal rights during COVID, and she suddenly quit. It's still a mystery as to why she suddenly quit.
I think she said she was burnt out, which I don't know. Fair enough. I think it must be pretty exhausting.
And Mark
running
Carney,
even a little country.
Heavily involved in the WEF. He was a member of their foundations board, and he was one of the authors of some of their stuff. He wrote that book, Values. When he did get an interview with one of the UK reporters, he said that's still the values he believes in. So you can expect that carbon capture is one of their main platforms. And also Brookfield. If you just do a small search on the internet, you can do this yourself. You just all search Brookfield, and then right after it, type CCUS or carbon capture. You're going to see that Brookfield has invested billions and billions of dollars into carbon capture. And it was basically a dead technology because the Americans walked away from it. That's why American companies are coming to Canada, because Canada is going to give 75 cents on the dollar in tax credits to these companies that were basically a failed investment. And they said on their website that this thing doesn't work anywhere but Canada because of the tax credits. So look at that and ask yourself, this is where Canada is going. And Jacinda just said that the world is basically got a light on fire here. And here's a thing from, this is recently, temperatures minus 55, lowest since 1970 there at the Arctic Circle. And I've lived up north. I worked in Thompson, Manitoba, and lived in Fort Vermilion and High Level. I know what 55 below feels like.
Yeah, maybe a real feel negative 55. I don't know if I've lived in Edmonton and Toronto. I've never hit negative 55.
No, you got to go up north for that.
But yeah, it is a world-breaking low temperature, and the Hudson Bay also froze solid in 10 days this year.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's a good snow season for the skiers and snowboarders.
And then the difference, the Tale of Two Nations, drill baby drill is the Trump's rallying cry. And in Canada, it's, I'm not sure what it is. Build Canada strong, but we seem to be doing the opposite. Elbows up, I guess it's elbows up. But you can see how energy, we're at the lowest price for U.S. crude as crude hits record highs. So the price of energy goes down. Cheap, reliable energy fuels a robust economy. Cheap, reliable energy fuels a robust economy. As the price of energy comes down, you see the
cost of everything
GDP
comes
going
down.
up, right? Yeah, because that's what it is, right? Energy's in everything we do. Energy's in everything we do, we eat. You're watching this because of energy. There is no such thing as without energy.
And with the AI revolution, we're going to require a lot more energy.
Is everything. If you want to eat better, if you don't want taxation to be the biggest cost that you have to scrimp and scrape for, and then you watch them waste those dollars, like they're taking, again, I said, just imagine yourself sitting down to dinner, and you got your table spread out for your family, and the government comes in and takes half the food off the table. And then they throw it in the garbage. And you have to ask yourself, what's going on here?
Indeed. One of the most important issues for Canada as we head into 2026 is the upcoming CUSMA review. Mark Carney so far has failed to get the deal with Trump, but Trump's made it clear that he wants our dairy supply management gone, which Carney is doubling down on.
I mean, that's the hill they want to die on, it seems like. And supply management, again, benefits the few at the expense of the many. The food professors laid that out many times, and that this is actually hurts the Canadian consumer too. The price of milk, dairy, eggs, all that stuff, poultry, way higher because of supply management. The consumer is the one that hurts. It definitely benefits the few MPs in Quebec and in Ontario there that really The lobby groups really push. This is one of the more powerful lobby groups. Ian says a lot about this. Like, this is one of the most powerful lobby groups in Canada because trade deals have been kiboshed not only with the United States on this measure, but the UK and Europe, right? And Australia moved away from their supply management agreements. A lot of countries had these and they had to move away from them. But Canada seems to want to die on this hill, just like the EV mandate. They've wrecked the whole auto sector here because of their EV mandate. And they're doing the same thing to our energy policies. We're going to see a little bit from later on what their energy policies have done to Canada. Well, you can see it in our economy.
Yep, and you can see it in the price of beef as well.
Yeah, I mean, it has to do with our exports and imports too. Canada exports way more beef than it imports because there's restrictions on what we import, right? We saw, we showed you images of what New Zealand beef is like half of what Canadian beef is. It doesn't make any sense. They got to ship it here, yet it's way cheaper, right? And then the food professor again, they really don't like him on some of the more mainstream media, but he's got a big following on the internet. I recommend you follow him because he is one of the smartest guys. He's a professor at one of the universities.
Dalhousie.
Yeah, for a skyrocketing meat price, the government can take action right now. Lift import restrictions on beef products and get our supply management house in order for poultry. Meat prices out of control and they shouldn't be. I mean, meat, I was literally in the grocery store and I look at families, they're looking in the meat counter like it's a luxury item that they're planning ahead for. That never used to be the case here in Canada. That is something that each one of those politicians should just feel an enormous amount of shame for, yet they don't, because the elites don't notice. They don't care. They're making, we show you the salaries that they're getting paid there. And plus it was bonus time in Ottawa. Meanwhile, Canadians go hungry.
Yeah, and in 2025, we saw an emergence of scurvy cases in Manitoba as well from people being malnourished. People can't afford fruits and vegetables in these northern communities either, not even just meat.
Look at the price of these roasts here. Imagine that, hey? Imagine that. Can you see the prices?
I can see it, yeah. $120.
$120 and $175 for
and
a
that's
roast.
Superstore, so imagine what it is at Loblaws. Well, we should be a rich and prosperous nation based on our resources. The next slide here. We are one of the most resource-rich nations in the country.
I mean, if you watch this show on a regular basis, we kind of harp this point. Canada should be one of the richest nations in the world. We are resource rich, one of the richest in the world, especially by diversity. Some countries like Saudi Arabia, very rich, but they're rich in really one thing: oil and gas, and sand, you would say. But look at Canada: uranium, potash, nickel, oil, gold, water, like on and on and on and on and on and on.
And we've spent the last 10 years just kneecapping ourselves.
Just squandering it with policies, the virtue signaling. This is how bad the virtue signaling is. They banned straws and plastics here in Canada, which caused food inflation as well, because you go to the restaurant, you go to that, they have to use different products. Yesterday you said you worked in a restaurant. Those are more expensive, so the price of food goes up. But now we can manufacture the straws as long as we only sell them to the Americans. We can't sell them to Canadians because we're not allowed to use them.
Yeah, we're creating the plastics. It's still polluting the world. It's just not happening in this location is really what that is.
It's just madness. It's absolute madness. People are going to buy oil and gas. We buy it from actually Saudi Arabia because we won't buy our own. It's absolute lunacy.
It's a bit convoluted.
And this is the one that is really tough to listen to. And Mark Carney was the economic advisor at the time. Japan came here begging, as did South Korea, as did Germany, begging for LNG. Justin Trudeau said there is no business case for LNG. Mark Carney was the economic advisor. He was also testified in committee and kiboshed the Northern Gateway pipeline. Said there was no future for it. Here we are now. The Americans did all those deals with all those three countries with no carbon capture, with nothing. They took away all that stuff. And we played the clip yesterday on what Trump has to say about energy. Energy is the thing that makes nations prosperous. And we have a way, for some strange reason, we do nothing but kibosh our own energy. And who benefits? Why does Brookfield have massive investments in carbon capture? And that's the path we seem to be going on. And mainstream media, you had 2 interviews, nobody attacks that. Nobody asks that question. Nobody asks that question because our media in Canada is absolutely corrupted. Well, that's why I ask you to support independent media outlets like ourselves. Share, subscribe, get the word out. Independent media is the only thing that could probably save Canada here, because the mainstream media, we're going to show you later, you put in a story that just shows you how blatantly corrupt they are.
Well, and as Pierre Poilievre points out about this resource, I don't know if you call it a drain and ignorance of our resources, we've canceled at least $176 billion of energy projects and investments.
We've shared this time and time again.
And that's between 2015 and 2020. How much has gone on in the last 5 years?
Put this map up here on the full screen just so people can look at it. Oh, that's fine. You can leave it like that. But I mean, you look at this stuff and it's just, these are projects that were suppressed. And recently, Tech merged with, I think, Anglo-American or I think it's Anglo-American. And anyway, Tech walked away after spending $1.1 billion in the Frontier project in the tar sands. Walked away because they said there's no path forward with the Liberal government. They said there's no path, after spending $1.1 billion in Fort Mac. They walked away.
If we would have completed some of these projects, we probably wouldn't be so reliant on the United States and have a bit more of a leg to stand on for these trade negotiations.
We wouldn't have the unemployment numbers we have. We wouldn't have our youth looking around wondering what's happened to them. They would have good paying jobs in the resource sector, and they would be buying houses and pickup trucks and raising families. That's what we would have.
Well, and one thing Mark Carney's done since he took office, he started that major projects office. Have any of the major projects gone anywhere yet? I haven't checked into it recently, but a month ago.
They labeled 12 of them, but I didn't see nothing. But they did do one thing. They got this phony photo op. Again, if you can eat photo ops, the Liberal government is the absolute best at photo ops. Even Francois Philippe Champagne now has somebody traipsing around with them around the world when they're making little TikTok videos. Yeah. Gary Andesangria.
And it was Black Box broke this one. I think this... if this is the Canada Build Strong Canada, it costs like $32 million for this photo op.
No, 36,000.
36,000. There we go.
Yeah. Well, it's going to cost us about $30 million probably by the time they're done, because they say they're going to build an extra 250,000 homes a year over the next 5 years. The PBO's office, Jason Jack, says it's more likely 26,000 homes in 5 years, cumulatively, not each year. 26,000 in total. For I think the price tag on that is $4.5 billion.
Yeah, I think the private sector could do a little better than that.
You know, it's just sometimes it just leaves you speechless. Yet, where's our media covering this? And then immigration being one of the big things in Canada as well.
Yeah, we've backslid on a lot of things, but we've cranked the immigration up to unprecedented levels in the last few years. Got a clip here.
Canada is slowing the flow of immigration into this country with cuts to the temporary foreign worker and international student programs. As the new federal government takes a tougher stance on the issue, CTV's Adrian Gabriel looks at the backlash and the consequences that have the country charting a new course.
Canada's once ambitious immigration targets have led to a hard landing.
We're reducing the numbers of immigrants that will come to Canada for the next 3 years.
The former Trudeau government acknowledging they made some mistakes. In 2022, Canada welcomed more than 405,000 newcomers, with plans for 465,000 permanent residents in 2023, 485,000 in 2024, and 500,000 in 2025.
Did we take too long to adjust? I think there's some responsibility there.
The government eventually reworked its plans to decrease its target to 395,000 permanent residents this year, while lowering that number even more over the next 2 years. The About Face set in motion a seismic shift in Canada's immigration policy that has played out over the last 12 months.
We've got this huge influx of people on Canadian soil expecting permanent residents who won't get it.
The number of international student visas were slashed this year, leading to college and university program cancellations and sweeping job cuts.
We're seeing one of the largest...
We've covered this so much. There's that one college in Conestoga in Ontario there that made, like, I think 86% of their students were foreign students. They built their whole business model around it. And that dean or the president of that small community college, really, $600,000 a year in salary. But who pays the price? These people benefited. Who pays the price? Canadians pay the price with no access to healthcare, high inflation, high unemployment. That community was basically, you know, like,
well, and cost of
the
housing
unemployment
as
for
well.
youth there is in the double digits. And then this temporary foreign worker program. A&W and Tim Hortons, they want cheap labor. Even the UN organization said it's basically modern day slavery. They want the cheap labor so that you can subsidize Tim Hortons and you can subsidize A&W by less access to healthcare. There's people, we've done stories, people dying in waiting rooms because they have no access to healthcare. And who benefits? I think Melanie Jolie's brother also runs a delivery program, like one of those, I think it's in telecom or something.
Telecom, yep.
And then again, tons of temporary foreign workers. So they lobby, these lobby groups go for the temporary foreign workers because they can pay them very low. But who pays the price? Canadians pay the price, right? Canadians continue to pay the price.
And rent's gone up.
And then this doesn't count all of the immigrants that come in. The numbers they're showing there doesn't count everything, right? That's just, anyway.
Yeah, so, well, this is where we're at after 10 years of Liberal governments. What has been accomplished? This tweet is highlighting what the Conservatives did in about the same time period.
Yeah, I would say like the one thing Trudeau did accomplish, he got weed legalized. A lot of people like that.
Well, and made.
Weed and made. Weed, Sir Elton John said that was one of the biggest mistakes. I mean, there's a lot of people that really like legalizing pot. It was a really good moneymaker for a lot of people, for sure, especially a lot of junior resource stocks did a reverse takeover and turned it into scads of money, but then turned it into a flop right after that. But the one big thing that I would say to Canadians, he's an accountant, the TFSA is one thing that was given by Harper. That's one of the best things you can have. It is a tax-free savings account, right? So there is a bunch of things. You can go through that list yourself. Cut the GST down to 5. Remember, Jean Chrétien promised to cut it to 0. Never did it. Harper came in and cut it by 2 points because it used to be 7%. I'm waiting for them to decide to raise it, but they've done other things, right? Carbon tax is obviously a big tax that they did. She's getting ready for tonight. She's resting right now.
Yeah, I keep yawning today. I keep trying to suppress the yawns.
Anyway.
Yeah, the CRA is attempting to recover $10 billion in bogus COVID benefit payouts.
Yeah, they've again, you can go back and read my LinkedIn. They pushed this money out like drunken sailors, and I said this is going to lead to inflation and stagflation. And like there was no controls on what it was done.
If you were a temporary foreign worker, you were eligible for these benefits as well, as long as you'd made $5,000 in like the past, whatever it was.
They were giving it to literally anyone.
How many people came here, sat on the benefits for that time, didn't work, temporary foreign workers, and then just left the country? Yeah. And they were probably legally eligible for it, is the worst thing.
$84 billion in benefits were paid out during the pandemic. $84 billion as they just spent money like drunken sailors. Absolutely. And now they're trying to get some of that back. Good luck.
Well, and get back $2.5 billion instead of giving it to Ukraine. Let's put it to this debt. Because I think a lot of the people who claimed these benefits wrongfully, they don't have that money to give back.
No.
And
it's gone.
They're saying that now the government is seeing like bank accounts are freezing, garnishes of wages for this. Yeah, Canadians, if you're already struggling and the government's going to garnish like 30% of your wage.
And this is the question that was missed. I'll let you lead into it.
Oh, the tax dodging? Is that where we're going next?
Yeah, we might as well play the clip here.
Yeah.
On page 12 of your report, there is reference to Brookfield's tax gap over the last 5 years between 2017 and 2021. Just so that I'm clear on what a tax gap means, it is measuring the difference between taxes actually paid and taxes that would have been paid if the statutory Canadian tax rate had been applied to profits reaped. Do I have that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And according to your analysis, or the analysis cited in your report, Brookfield's tax gap in just 5 years between 2017 to 2021 was over $6.5 billion. Is that right?
That's correct, and that was based on research done by the Canadians for Tax Fairness and by some analysis from the Toronto Star as well.
So it would be fair to say that the extent of Brookfield's tax avoidance, taxes that it should have otherwise paid in Canada in just 5 years, was over $6.5 billion.
Yes, I mean,
That's good. You get the idea.
Yeah, and Mark Carney, he was in charge of Brookfield until January of this year.
And the other thing is he was the economic advisor for 5 years prior. And Canada is one of its biggest things, it's tax collector. So he was influencing tax policy. At the same time, he was influencing tax dodging at Brookfield. And people don't get that. He was actually economic advisor for Canada, which is a tax collector. That's its main function. Canada, the Canadian government, the main function is tax collection and then spending. So he's influencing policy. At the same time, he's finding loopholes. And then he said in his election thing that he would fix, because he knows how these things work, and he would fix it. Here it is, Global and CBC get a sit-down interview with him, one of the few ever provided in Canada. Do they ask the question? Do they ask the question, have you closed the offshore tax structures tied to Brookfield? And if not, why not? And will your government pursue Brookfield for any back taxes owed to Canadians?
And then this is how the CBC framed it back in March. Carney's green funds at Brookfield used Bermuda tax haven to attract investors. That sounds positive, doesn't it? The byline is a bit more. Liberal Party refuses to answer questions about leaders' time in private sector.
But look at that headline.
Yeah, I know. It sounds great.
Here they're going after Canadians for a couple $1,000s, freezing their bank accounts, seizing their wages, and Brookfield dodges $6.5 billion?
Yep.
And CBC, Canada's state-funded broadcaster, is supposed to be Canada's watchdog, frames it like this: Carney's green funds at Brookfield use Bermuda tax haven to attract investors. Basically, it just says Carney knows how to dodge taxes, and that's a good thing for investors.
And if you listen to the CBC regularly, which I do, they're always framing him as this financial genius. Oh, we're so lucky. Look at his resume that he's leading our country. He's bankrupt in the country.
I would ask you to go read my LinkedIn post there, and I put the questions I would have asked if we were provided the interview. I put 7 questions there, and I put all the questions that were asked by Global. The cool thing about that, not cool, the odd thing about that interview, there was no follow-ups. Like, she asked the question like they were almost framed ahead of time, like they were almost provided. Carney had his answers, wasn't challenged on any of the answers, just provided the answers. Like a monkey could have read out those questions. And they weren't hard-hitting questions. And here's the guy that's the most powerful guy in Canada. And he was basically given a sponsored content piece.
Yeah,
and that was
set
fed
up for
to
the
Canadians.
home run.
And then if you look at the CBC piece here, and I'm going to do the same thing for Rosemary Barton's interview, and I'm also going to do it for Pierre Poilievre. And you have to look at this and then ask yourself, what type of media do we want in Canada? If they're supposed to be our watchdog and hold power accountable, are they doing a good job, or are they propping up power? So the question is, will you support local independent media? And that you can do that simply, not with money, but just liking, sharing, subscribing, getting this out to more people. And then, because that's the only way, is independent journalism is on the rise in the United States. It's huge down there, and we need it to happen here in Canada, because the mainstream media is not doing the function they're supposed to be. Because if you look at this headline, Canada's largest tax dodgers, and even if you think about it, Obama said the Bermuda tax haven is the worst. Those people doing it are the worst tax offenders in the world. And I think there was hundreds of people that had the same Bermuda bike shop as listed as their office. That's the office. It's a bike shop there. You can go find it on the internet. It's a bike shop in Bermuda. That's the head office there for this tax dodging.
Well, and now Brookfield has moved to the States. Carney's more invested in the States than he is in Canada.
Yeah.
It's 91% of his, I think, revealed holdings. There's still, 1,900 that we don't know, non-disclosed?
And he talks about the blind trust. Again, that's the question I would have asked if I had a chance there at the interview with the blind trust, as opposed to, I'm going to find the question here.
Well, it's how, if you know what's in the trust, even if you put the blindfold
Brookfield's
on,
in there.
you still know what's in there.
Right?
And it's been testified in the House of Commons. He's still getting paid based on Brookfield's performance.
This is the question we have. There's been extensive public discussion about your conflicts of interest. Why not eliminate all doubt and sell your holdings entirely, as U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has done? He has plainly said there's no such thing as a blind trust. How can Canadians accept the term blind trust when most of your wealth is tied to Brookfield, a company deeply involved in government contracts here and abroad, in Ukraine, in Europe? We invested, I think it was, I can't remember how many millions are off the top of my head right now, in the European Union Space Agency.
500 million.
500 million.
And Brookfield
with ties
owns,
to Brookfield, owns the
Brookfield,
property.
Yeah.
Like it's just.
Well, if you go, speaking of independent journalism, this Moose on the Loose guy, he has a whole document online that goes through and alleges all of Brookfield's and Carney's conflicts of interest, and it is staggering once you look into the facts.
Now let's go to the CBC and see if they've covered off anything we talked about today. Let's just go take our daily look at what the CBC is covering today. I'm sure they're covering off all these questions and how they're embarrassed about the interviews they've done on Mark Carney there. Well, they're going to talk about hockey.
We got that coming up later, the Calgary water break. Skier, New York.
The biggest story in the United States is the story that Nick Shirley uncovered, the independent journalist, on the massive fraud going off in Minnesota right now.
Yeah, and
3 days now. 3 days. Nothing from the CBC. Nothing. But they will join it, I guarantee, and probably next week they're going to attack Nick Shirley because the mainstream media in the U.S. is doing it right now. Instead of going after the story, they're going after the messenger.
Well, we'll see next week. You and Ian will be here reporting every weekday, live at 9 a.m. Oh yeah, here, now we're going to cover this flood in Calgary. It was caused by a water main break. I think we got a video.
We just put this in because it's just wild that the person's actually in the flood calling 911, right?
I think there's 6, the first 6 stories was this. Oh God.
You can play the sound. There's no music.
No.
We're on 16th Avenue and we're in like a flood. Right by right before
They're driving towards another car there. It looks like they're about to head-on collision in the flood.
See, Calgary can have these flash floods too. Like I've been there when they've had those massive rainstorms and
Toronto
they have
gets
those hollows in there, and then you can get water pushing with the hood too, right? Like, don't drive in there. Don't drive in there. But Calgary also, they got a new mayor.
Yep. And Financial Post is saying they're getting a bit of their swagger back.
Yeah, he's a different kind of mayor. He's more what you would expect from an Albertan mayor compared to ones they just had there, Nishi and that Mayor Goodnick, that they didn't fit the Calgary mold, but this is more like it. But there's a lot of hope in Calgary that energy is going to get done. But they're putting a lot of reliance on the MOU. But I think there's a plan B as well, and that is to go south. And then there's also that huge separatist movement that's going on in Alberta as well.
Yeah, we're seeing separatist movements right now in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Quebec. We got a comedian here asking about Canadians' choices at the polls.
I'm sure many people remember Rick Mercer. I believe he was on This Hour as 22 Minutes. And even he's puzzled. But let's listen into Rick Mercer's, like in the elbows up people. He's got a little gray on there. Old Mr.
We did something.
There you go.
Recently that I didn't think we would do. In fact, we did something recently that I wasn't even sure we'd do again in my lifetime. We elected the Liberals. How did we do that again? We re-elected the Liberals? I mean, it wasn't that long ago, Canada. There was only one thing uniting this country. We were going to throw out the Liberals. No, we weren't going to throw out the Liberals. We were going to hurt the Liberals. We were going to punish the Liberals. It was going to be a bloodbath. And then an election got called, the shit hit the fan, Dumbo went berserk, and we elected the banker.
Rick Mercer used to do those rants all the time. He was a funny guy. You know what? Newfoundlanders, some of the best people in Canada. And Newfoundlanders are looking forward to a Quebec separation. They've been looking forward to a long time because then Toronto's only an hour away. That's an old Newfie joke.
Yeah, I mean, you got to smirk. You got to smirk.
You got to smirk out of it. Anyway, we're going to
move along. Tesla's Model Y, now the world's best-selling car overall, again in 2025.
Yeah, we're going to throw a little
3
tech in
years
here.
running.
Yeah, 3 years running. The Model Y, #1, not gas, not EV, #1 car in the world, gas or electric, or hybrid for that matter.
Which one do you have?
This one right here.
There you go.
So I have the car that everybody drives, just vanilla. And there's a reason it's the best-selling car. It's
Yeah, the first coast-to-coast autonomous drive was completed in the U.S.
Yeah, so David Moss, again, another content creator, and Elon Musk retweeted him. He doesn't have much of a following, but he said he drove his car across the United States from the Tesla diner, which is a cool diner. I got to go one day. Took him 3 days to drive coast to coast, and he didn't touch it even for parking. And I use it every day. I mean, I use it when I get up in the morning. I get in the car, put my seatbelt on, I push the button for Grok, and I say, Grok, take me to work, and it automatically does it, and I say, start self-drive, and that's it. Do the same thing on the way home.
Yeah, that's it. That's all. I think there'd be a lot less accidents if, especially in Kelowna where there's a lot of old people driving. That's one of my 2020, maybe 2027 goals, get my grandparents in a self-driving car.
Well, I go to Cobb's Breads all the time to get bread, and somebody's driven through the window 3 times in the past, I think, 2 years. 3 times they've driven through, and it's old people hitting the wrong pedal.
Yeah. Yeah, well, not hitting the wrong pedal, it's setting the wrong thing before they hit the pedal.
I guess they want to get to front of the line, hit the bread before anybody else.
And precious metals are surging. Copper is headed for its biggest annual gain since 2009.
There's a little hint in there. Resources, a big deal. Resources on fire. Copper, gold, silver, platinum, uranium, like all of it. And what are we doing? Get a wet blanket, throw it on top. I have no idea. Canada is one of the few nations, well, the only G7 nation not to have any gold reserves.
Yeah, when did we sell them?
2015 was the last of it.
Yeah.
A lot of the central banks were selling off gold. They said it was an antiquated asset, so you could kind of okay with that. But then most of them started buying back reserves. And then Canada did not. Tiff Macklin even said recently that he buys interest-bearing investments instead. And a lot of our bonds that we sell are denominated in US dollars. Wild.
Can't pretend I understand exactly what that means, but one day. Xi Jinping highlighted China's achievements in artificial intelligence.
Yeah, the people that want AI to slow down, you know what I mean? They're saying all these things. We got to slow down. We got to, in Canada, you know, we got to monitor. We got to regulate it. China's not slowing down. There is no, it's Pandora's box. It's out. You cannot slow down. You cannot slow down. And I mean, Canada is not even, Canada hasn't sped up to slow down. Like, I mean, there's nothing going on in Canada. When you look at the grand scope of things, all of it is, it's in the United States and in China, some of it. I mean, NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, I think he's the Financial Times or Financial Post Man of the Year, most consequential man of the year. NVIDIA has a GDP, a market cap higher than twice Canada's GDP, just NVIDIA. And I think NVIDIA's market cap is higher than all the TSX combined. That's how important AI is. Like, don't fool yourself. AI is huge. And I did my predictions article. It's on. We talked about it here. We're going to get her some Kool-Aid or something here. It's on there in the predictions, and AI is going to cause some massive losses, job losses in the white-collar section, especially the entry-level stuff, but likely for people that are using their hands, trades in that, one of the biggest opportunities in a long, long time coming for them.
And Warren Buffett has exited Berkshire. What's the story?
Hey, the old man's finally retiring. Now who's going to take the helm after, Warren, he's done a hell of a job there running Berkshire. But you know who's done a better job? Nancy Pelosi has done a better job in her stock portfolio. Imagine that.
Well, she's a financial mind of our times, right?
She's a genius. She's an absolute genius.
All right, and let's move on to our BC news.
Coming to you live from the Now Media Newsroom.
Homeowners in BC, attention. We are now offering title insurance.
Yeah, because we don't have much choice with this thing still going on. David Eby won't call the ledge back to get rid of DRIPA. I have an interview coming up with Jeff Moyse here in the new year. I'm going to talk a little bit more about DRIPA, and there's a lot of that going on. But David Eby, he put out a New Year's message, so he didn't talk about the property rights in that New Year's message. And he said that his favorite thing go-to was he blamed Trump for the stuff that's going on here. One has to look in the mirror and say, oh, how did we get here? What are we doing? Like, forestry has been in a rough spot here in British Columbia for the past decade, and it's only getting worse. And that has nothing to do with Trump. Trump has exaggerated it or made it worse. But, I mean, we put ourselves in that position to be punished that easily.
Yeah, you were saying this wasn't a thing in BC. You had the title insurance in Alberta, but
yeah, I mean,
it's a direct consequence.
Most people
of
don't
what's
buy
been going
title
on.
insurance in BC, but Alberta has title insurance, and then all of a sudden, here's somebody recommending to get this is an MLA saying you should got to look at getting title insurance, because David Eby says he's going to backstop those mortgages in Richmond there. For $150 million. Vancouver Sun putting it out there, that's more like $1 billion. And when I talked to Jeffrey Moyse, he said it's more in the trillions. So tons and tons of money. So buying insurance may not be such a bad idea. But it's what's really worse is it's basically freezing the market. Like, people aren't buying and selling. That's the thing. It's basically freezing the market.
The market wasn't doing well before this.
That's
so,
right,
and we keep seeing kind of miscarriages of justice. Right now, there's a police watchdog probe that is going into the death of a 45-year-old woman in Merritt, BC, from injuries sustained in what police describe as domestic incident. And basically, the gist of this case is that the police had gone to the house several times for domestic incidents. Nothing happened. We hear that time and time again. The guy maybe was taken to jail and released. Didn't have time to look into it. But like the Bailey McCourt thing that happened here.
Yeah, just released, and then he allegedly.
So they are looking in to see if the police did enough in this case, and we'll follow that story.
Sad story.
Very sad story, and sadly not a story people are getting used to hearing again and again.
Yeah, you become immune to them because you're just like, oh, it's another one.
Yeah. All right, international.
Coming to you live from the Now Media Newsroom.
Iran's currency is collapsing.
Yeah, that's some news out there. You know, it's not a lot of people will cover this, but Iran, their currency is collapsing. There's a bit of rioting going on in the streets. It doesn't look good, and this is the thing to watch for as people say, oh, the currencies never collapse. And I mean, I can point you to many currency collapses.
Zimbabwe recently.
Oh, that was a while back. But Venezuela was the richest country in South America. They elected a socialist government, and the government that won't leave, even though he's lost the election, Maduro, and basically, you know, cratered that whole thing. I think people lost 98% of their wealth. The people that stuck around, and if you just had all your money in Venezuelan dollars, you're basically done. And then people that diversified, like when there's an economic winter, you diversify into gold, silver, real estate, different things.
Which is what we're seeing here.
Yeah, so there you go. Lots of stuff going on. There's protests because as prices surge and the currency becomes more and more worthless, there's more unrest. And I think they're this lost it here. Their central bank chief Mohammad Reza Farzan has resigned. So that's usually what happens. Yeah, big mess. And, you know, also facing some pressure from the United States too, Trump threatening to launch more attacks against Iran too.
And the biggest news in the States right now, the one CBC is not covering, what was his name again? Nick Shirley?
Nick Shirley, two first names.
He broke the story about all these daycares and childcare centers in Minnesota that had no children going to them. And now we are hearing that whistleblowers did allegedly come forward to the powers that be in Minnesota, and that they were dismissed as racist and Islamophobic when they brought these things to light.
This has been going on for a while. Nick Shirley really brought attention to it, and then Elon Musk and J.D. Vance retweeted it. And it is independent journalism, because what's happening is when these other outlets brought it forward, they were just told that they're Islamophobic or racist. We're going to see some of those clips. Well, let's play this clip right here.
Absolutely. We have dozens of credible whistleblower reports saying that exact same thing, that people were told not to say anything because they'd be called racist or Islamophobic, or it would hurt the state. And so people tried to come forward, but were shut down. And that protection of a particular community is what really allowed this fraud to flourish in Minnesota for years. But we have said very publicly that, yes, the bulk of the fraud we've discovered so far is in the Somali community, but some of our best whistleblowers are also in the Somali community. And it's really important that we get to the truth of this issue. And so by failing to call it out, we allowed it to continue, and that has hurt Minnesotans tremendously, taxpayers and our vulnerable citizens.
Yeah, and then here's Caroline Levitt saying that they're going after them. They're cutting off, HHS is cutting off all child care funds, Department of Labor investigating, the FBI is on the ground there, DHS is on the ground. I didn't want to link in there. But yeah, there's a lot of, now there's a lot of attention. There's national attention on this now. I mean, we played a clip from a local regional outlet there that tried to get some attention on it. They were told by the governor that you know, like, you're a racist, Islamophobic, and all that thing, so that they just go about their way. And they're still trying it. But here's Newsmax talking about how bad this fraud is. Let's listen in on Newsmax.
Is totally appalling, but it is also unsurprising, and that's because it's a microcosm of what ails the Democratic elites. That's our Why It Matters segment for the night. The latest revelations join others in which suspected Somali fraudsters stole more than $9 billion in federal funds from 14 state-run agencies dating back to 2018. Somali Americans make up 89% of the defendants charged. The absolute scale of the fraud just beggars belief. Where were the spot checks? Where were the officials? It seems totally impossible that the Democratic leadership was not somehow in on this. Just think about how...
That's
big
good.
Allegation.
Yeah, that's good. But CNN to the rescue. Let's listen on CNN, and here's a little clip here and show you what the left-leaning media right away to the rescue. And what are they pulling out? They're pulling out their usual card. Instead of, let's play there. You can just listen in on what CNN and the likes of them do.
They're rounding up everybody who is involved in fraud.
No, they're not rounding up everybody. They're all talking about Somalis. That's the point.
I want them to round up anyone who is involved in defrauding American taxpayers of what apparently amounts to $9 billion in a very, very small state. Somali, whether they're citizens, immigrants, white, I don't care.
You don't care if they target one community?
I want the fraud to stop.
But do you support the targeting of this one community or not?
I support the
targeting. You think that's the right thing to do?
I support the targeting of people engaged in fraud.
But do you support the targeting of the Somali American community as directed by the President of the United States based on their ethnicity?
That's not what he said.
That's it.
That is precisely
exactly if they are engaged in fraud.
That's good. Now, you can go watch that entertainment all you want. It's Scott Jennings against 5 people always on CNN. Scott Jennings has become kind of like you know, like a hero to some, because he takes on 5. They don't like to have a balanced panel, and basically the only card they play all the time is like it's racism to go after fraud, and that's what they did earlier. This has been going on for a long time. So Tim Walz and the crew there continue to cover it up by playing that card, and you just got to stop allowing them to play that card. Fraud is fraud. The American taxpayer in Canada, the Canadian taxpayer, foots the bill for the fraud. You're taking food off the table. Tax is one of the #1 thing the Canadians pay now. You're taking food off our table to continue and perpetuate fraud, waste, and abuse.
Yeah, and you see this time and time again is the framing of true issues. Instead of talking about the issue, they talk about something that really doesn't have to do with the issue.
And here's CNN. Yes, says poor Andrea needs a coffee. She's going to get through it. She's going to get through it.
Yeah.
she's getting ready for the big party tonight, I think, you know.
I think I'm going to be in bed before midnight. First time ever.
Here's CNN. They don't go after the story. They don't say, like, because they got scooped. They don't go after and say, how did we miss this big story? They go after Nick Shirley. Let's listen in on this.
From CNN, can we talk to you? This is MAGA YouTuber Nick Shirley. Back at a daycare in Minnesota, he alleged was a fraudulent facility in a now viral video.
People are going to say this is a left or right issue, but no, fraud is fraud. Over here. And so I'm not out here trying to put a twist on things.
Shirley's viral video, released over the weekend, in which he says he's uncovering tens of millions of dollars in fraud at Minneapolis daycares run by the Somali community, was retweeted by Elon Musk and Vice President J.D. Vance. In the video, Shirley tries to open locked doors and talk to people at various daycares he claims are frauds. Did you come during their normal operating hours when you came to visit?
I came at 11 a.m., I believe, and I also came the following day later in the day. The point of it is not whether or not I came at the right time of their operation hours. The point is that blacked out doors, they can't give you any information. You call that number, no one answers. I wasn't trying to go inside. And there should be a way for somebody to actually be able to call that number and somebody to be able to answer. These aren't real businesses.
But surely you don't think a daycare should just be unlocked. You shouldn't be able to just walk into a daycare.
That's good. Listen to this. Instead of going after the story, they go after Nick Shirley with vengeance. They go after him with a vengeance.
Well, and I also think if kids are in a daycare, don't you want them to have windows and stuff? It's kind of weird to be in these. Even if there are kids in there, they're like locked down.
But
beyond the point.
They go after him with a vengeance, though. Instead of just saying, hey, we should take a look at the other side of this. Is this fraud going on? You know what I mean? Like, so this is what they do.
They attack his methods.
Yeah, they go after the messenger, right? The same thing they did with Elon Musk. They did the same thing. Like, look at the stuff that he's done. You know, we could go on and on about this, but they use the same tactics over and over and over again. And it's just...
Well, and you do wonder how this went on for so long. It's kind of like in Canada, how we dole out the bonuses with no performance metrics. You're doling out this cash is no one going to the daycares and looking?
And then they did the same thing with Scott Bassett. He went on the CBS show Face the Nation, and they went after him too. And it's just like, this is mainstream. There's something wrong with them. There's absolutely something wrong with them. And you have to wonder why. And here's Maine Musk in this last clip here talking about why she won't go on some of those networks. And Maine Musk is obviously Elon Musk's wife. Listen. Mother.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Mother.
He's got an interesting taste in women.
She was a model at one time.
Yeah, she's good looking, but...
Since Elon showed the Twitter files where the FBI was paying millions to Twitter to stay Democratic and get rid of the Republicans, I mean, you and I paid to have Republicans removed from Twitter. I now don't trust the press at all, and let's work. I'll only come to Fox News. I won't go anywhere else, and X. That's the media.
I mean, I wouldn't say Fox News is non-biased, but they're a little kinder to her son.
We don't have that. We don't have that in Canada. At least they have CNN and they have Fox. We don't. We don't have a national, other than us and Ian and I and you. We don't have an alternative. We have a bunch of independent journalists out there right now doing some work that are doing better work than the CBC that gets paid $1.55 billion a year. $1.55 billion a year. Yeah, Hollydome Blacklocks. There's a few really good, Sam Cooper out there on the coast there.
Yeah, but then also we've seen almost 100 independent news outlets fail since Bill C-18 was
been crushed and crippled by Bill C-18. And then so support local independent journalism all you can. Moose on the Loose, another one, Northern Perspective, and then lots of people like Rebel. I mean, there's lots of outlets out there that are independent that you could take a look at, including ours. Share this news hour we're doing. It's about an hour and a half or an hour and 45 when Ian and I do it. But
if you and Ian do it, it's sometimes over 2 hours.
But again, this year the table salt is really good. There's lots of really good people on X, and I would recommend people all get on X. Get on X. It is the #1 news platform now in how many countries in the world?
167?
167. She's the database. See, there you go. 167 countries in the world. Follow us on TikTok, too. We're doing some good stuff. We just started a TikTok. We're also on Rumble. We're getting Rumble going. Substack, we're starting to do that. My LinkedIn is very popular as well. I think getting like 1 million views on some of the LinkedIn stuff in a month and that. So
yeah, we are going to push hard in 2026. Lots of changes to come. New mics, first one
Yeah, so there you go. Andrea's doing a lot of stuff, and we're going to just start a show. Andrea and I are going to do a weekly show as well. And then Andrea's always going to fill in for Ian and I, depending on who's off, so we can at least have a day off.
So you guys can finally have some vacations,
there you go.
You had a record-breaking year of vacation days.
That's probably the most
Just
I've
like
had
the
in
Canadian
like
government.
20 years. I'm kidding. Well, I don't know if I go that far. They only work 70, how many days?
72 days at the House.
She's the
Commons,
database. Somebody said that you're smart. Yeah, she's the database. So
I'll just get the job because I'm good looking. So
there you go. I surely didn't get it because I was good looking.
Well, Ian's good looking.
Oh, wow, what was that?
You just need one.
Holy cow! Here I was sticking up for her too.
Are we ending? Oh, do you take out? No, we've still got the one I was going to say.
You go ahead.
Starting tomorrow, never good stories from this region. Israel is banning dozens of AIDS groups from Gaza, including Doctors Without Borders. And I think that is, to me, always kind of the leading international news, is all these human rights violations going on over in that part of the world. Why ban Doctors Without Borders? There's no excuse for it.
No idea, but I ended with this one. I thought I was looking for it. I couldn't remember where it was, but here it is. Because this is what the 2025 has amounted to in Canada. Elbows up. How you feeling? Too bad we didn't have the dance in there. We had closed off 2025 with the dance. I know you're not a big fan of the dance, but this is what started this. This is Mike Myers, two non-Canadians really, two guys that have spent the last 10 years outside of Canada, coming in to tell Canadians how to act and what it means to be a Canadian.
Oh, I'm kind of disappointed in him. I like Mike Myers. I didn't realize he was part of this propaganda, could we call it?
Oh, that was that big commercial he did with the elbows up thing there, where they did.
Oh, yeah, I missed that. Blissfully missed that. Yeah.
Well, that's it. We do wish everybody a happy New Year, and hopefully 2026 turns into a much better year. I did be on the ballot with Renee Merrifield yesterday. She's calling for an election. I didn't. I'm not calling for a federal election. I'm calling for David Eby to resign. But she's calling for, she thinks that it's going to be a federal election. And we shall see. But again, Happy New Year to everybody. And again, if you could help us get this out to more people, support local independent media wherever you can. Tell them you want to stop giving money to the CBC. Stop giving money to the CBC and give some money to the independent outlets, or just don't give any money. Government shouldn't be giving any money to the media outlets. People should give money to media outlets.
Yeah, really.
Because it's power for the people. Not, because right now we don't have a watchdog checking the government.
No, not really. Not really. And what I always like to say to people is, imagine if this was going on in Russia or China, where historically these things do go on. You have one media funded by the state. Is that democratic? I think it's a rhetorical
state-funded broadcaster.
question.
I think Elon Musk called that to the CBC, and they lost their minds there for a while. Anyway, that's it for 2025. I'm Jim Chuck with Andrea Jensen-Berg.
Have a happy New Year. We're back on
Signing
Friday.
off for 2025. And we'll see you back here on Friday on the 2nd. Thank you for watching Now Media.